sense of humor, lovely sense of humor, you know. So he's a great cartoonist. I admire. R.K. Lakshman is another cartoonist whom I really admire, and I say that he's probably one of the most influential cartoonists of India. And because of these people, in fact, if today people like me are given any shred of respect in this country as cartoonists, then definitely the credit goes to my seniors, these people, because they worked hard to establish the art of cartooning as a serious art form.
Okay.
You know, and among the foreign cartoonists,
I think we'll just take a short break and we'll come back because we'll be talking about your favorites, and those I'm sure will be the favorites of so many of the people here.
Okay.
So we are talking to Sudhir Tailang on cartoons and his favorites as the target whom we really draws, and we'll come back to you again. We'll continue talking to him. Don't go away. This is Suresh Prabhu waiting for you to come back. Welcome back. This is a program in which we are talking to Sudhir Tailang, the top shot, in which we always encounter the issues and the person whom interest you. Cartoon, I'm sure you see every day, and the person who draws it is here. Tell me, you are saying that your favorite, of course, in India is Abu Abraham and R.K. Lakshman. Who are your favorites amongst the best cartoonists in the world?
I forgot one more name, that is Mario Miranda, who is a Goa-based cartoonist now, and he's one of the finest. In his own style of work. He's not a political cartoonist, but in social genre, he's, I think, one of the best in the world.
Fonseca and the boss.
Miss Fonseca and others. Among the foreign cartoonists, my earlier cartoonists whom I liked was Vicky and Lowe in England. Yeah. And in America, Hublock I liked not much, but I enjoyed his cartoons also. He's no more. Some of the best cartoonists are no more now. You know, McNally, I used to admire his cartoons. He's no more. But among the today's cartoonists in America, I would say Oliphant is the one I like, his cartoons even now. And then there is another cartoonist called Outh. I like his work also. And in England, in fact, there are two cartoonists whom I like. One is Matt, who draws the pocket cartoon for the Telegraph in London. And the second is Garland, who draws the political cartoons. But there are not many good cartoonists left in even England now.
Yeah, so all over the world is real.
It's the same state of affairs.
You know, Mario you mentioned, and you also mentioned that among the two living now, so I'm saying Mario on one hand and
Lakshman
on the other.
True.
R.K. Lakshman always has that common man.
True.
Who's actually waiting and hearing and with frustration and with no voice.
That's right.
He's just there, but he has no other role to do and role to play other than just being there as a spectator. So that's what probably is the perception that you. Unlike that, in case of Mario, he's not really talking from the common man's perspective, but he's trying to be, but something, both the cartoons convey a message. So
he was a social cartoonist, no?
I know, but he also conveys a message.
You want to know that whether I had a common man in my cartoons or not?
Yeah.
You know, in my cartoons, I never created a character like common man.
Yeah.
I had many characters who come and go in my pocket cartoons in Hindustan Times. Sometimes I created a woman journalist who used to appear in my cartoons. She was a TV journalist. And there have been some other characters also. But I have never really made an effort to create a character who would remain in my cartoons always. Although it's very easy to have a character, because it's a very useful technique to have a character, because then you identify with this character. And immediately, as you look at this character, you immediately recognize that this is done by this particular cartoonist. But to some extent, I find that having a protagonist or a fixed character is a kind of a liability also on you, because even if this character is not needed many times, you have to put it in one corner. And I decided not to have a character.
But when you created a character like the TV journalist or that woman journalist, is it don't you get emotionally attached to that creation, and then you are going to just get rid of the creation?
You do.
Do you feel something is lost part of your personality?
Absolutely. Like I used to have a male character, French cut beard, and flowing hair, and a kurta and a jeans and a jhola, just like the JNU types. This was a journalist I used to have in the early 80s. But, two people who were responsible for assassinating it were Abu Abraham and Mr. H.K. Dua, who was my editor in Hindustan Times. One fine morning, Abu used to tell me every day, why do you put this phony character in your cartoons every day? It's so jarring. It disturbs. Then one day Mr. Dua also told me, Sudhir, this looks like a funny character, but it actually disturbs the cartoon. And one fine morning I decided that I think these guys are right. Because I also thought very seriously. I said, he is not needed in the cartoons. And I assassinated him. I killed him. So I murdered one character. Then these ladies also I murdered much later. In my cartoons now, because I do not draw a pocket cartoon anymore.
They haunt you, that they're gone.
They do haunt me. They remain in my subconscious all the time. If I look at my old cartoons, I certainly feel, emotionally attached to them. But then that's past. Doesn't matter.
So professionalism takes over and emotions take the background,
right.
and then you start doing again.
That's right.
Is this cartoon as an art has to be developed, or is it a science that has to be mastered, or is it something like a study that you have to pursue? How does one become a cartoonist?
As you were asking earlier, why there are few cartoonists and how does one become a cartoonist? What are the requirements for a cartoonist? When I became a cartoonist, in fact, my first cartoon appeared when I was only 10 years old, 1970, and my cartoon appeared in the Hindustan.
10 years old?
10 years old, 1970. And in fact, I went to the market and bought 10 copies of the newspaper in a small town, a city called Bikaner. I became a mini star. And after next week, in fact, 3 of my cartoons appeared. So 2 cartoons in 1 week and 3 cartoons the next week. So 5 cartoons in 2 weeks. And after a couple of months, I got a money order of $25. So I went to the market, bought a pair of sunglasses, put them on, and went to see a movie called Jhuk Gaya Asman with my first salary.
Which one?
Jhuk Gaya Asman.
Oh.
So that was how I spent my first money. So that is how it started.
But that was also symbolic, because really Asman had come and touched you.
Absolutely. It was, yes. Sky at my feet. Anyway. So, becoming a cartoonist, apart from becoming a cartoonist, it is very difficult to make it as a cartoonist also in this field.
Yeah.
Because once you become a cartoonist, you decide that you want to become a cartoonist. You have those qualities. I knew that I had those qualities, but I never knew how to become a professional cartoonist. So I took science biology because I wanted to become a doctor. There were many dreams during my childhood. Like one of the dreams was to become a cinema gatekeeper. Oh. Because I thought that I would get to see free films.
All films.
And a salary also for watching those films.
And also the power of preventing somebody from going in.
Yes, that's right. With the torch. I do the same thing. I also use my torch now to show people their places. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I didn't know how to become a professional cartoonist. But because I was drawing cartoons all the time while I was a student, and by the time I finished my MA in English, I had something like 5,000 published cartoons. And on the basis of those 5,000 cartoons, I got the first job in the Illustrated Weekly in Bombay. That was my first job in 1982. Yeah. And I would say, unlike a film star or a writer like Vikram Seth or Arundhati Sen, you can't succeed on the basis of your one great cartoon. You have to constantly, continuously produce high quality work. If you continuously produce high quality work
better than the
for years, continuously, then people start taking notice of your work and they say, good cartoonist, he's a good cartoonist. So it's not, you cannot succeed like a Shah Rukh Khan that one film comes and you become a superstar. Yeah. I've been doing cartoons for 25, 26 years, 1980 se leke ab tak. How many years? But I don't think I've still made it as a cartoonist because it's a continuous journey. Yeah. And one has to better oneself from yesterday's cartoon. Each day you strive to better your cartoon every day.
Each cartoon is a benchmark and you have to keep improving that benchmark each and every day. So
that's right. Like as they say that every Friday makes or mars a film star's career. For us, every morning makes or mars our career, because if I do 10 good cartoons and 1 bad cartoon, that will certainly would be a blot on my career, suddenly. But you can't be a great cartoonist every day because you have to draw 1 cartoon every day, and it's a huge challenge. It's a bottomless pit.
But what motivated you to draw your first cartoon when you were 10? How did it happen?
I think
it's very uncharacteristic for a young boy like that.
10-year-old boy to become a cartoon. I used to see newspaper cartoons and comic strips like Phantom, Garth, Mandrake, Blondie, and all these characters used to fascinate me somehow. They used to attract me somehow. And I always thought that something like this, I must do something like this. And I started copying those cartoons on margins of newspapers.
But nobody told you, this is your self-motivation.
Nobody told me how to become I didn't even know what ink to use. You know, my father ran a printing press, which was a fortunate thing for me, that we had a printing press at our home. So I was introduced to, rollers, ink, galley, types, proofs, all these things in my childhood. So press was not something which was alien to me. And my grandfather used to be a Drupad Damar singer, Pandit Koti Maharaj, in Rajasthan. He used to sing Drupad and what you call Haveli Sangeet. Yeah. And he was a master of all the instruments. He used to teach music in a college. So, music on one side and press on the other.
So, art and then the medium.
And medium, both things were there. So, this was something which was a privilege for me to have been born in such a family where this kind of an atmosphere was there.
Suppose a youngster wants to be a cartoonist, what has he to do now? I mean, this is clearly a case of self-motivation.
Absolutely.
If you want to do it, then it happens.
True.
But suppose somebody wants to pursue a career, wants to be a cartoonist, how does he start to do that?
I would say that if you want to be a cartoonist, if you have the qualities, and unfortunately there are no schools or colleges where they teach cartooning. There are many art schools, there are many animation schools where you learn animation, but there are no schools where you are taught political cartooning. Almost every political cartoonist in the world is a self-taught cartoonist. There are very few of them who have been to an art school, at least where they learned how to draw. But most of the cartoonists have learned even drawing on their own. Like I have learned drawing on my own because I have my own technique. And in a sense, it's good also. You know why? Because you have an advantage. Because you haven't been straight-jacketed by principles of drawing.
Yes.
You have developed your own way of creating or reaching up to something.
So you're not.
So if you want to be a cartoonist, you have the qualities. Welcome, please come into this field because there are very few cartoonists, very few good cartoonists in this field.
And we politicians are going to provide them fodder
a lot
for
of
a long time to do that.
Absolutely. And but the fact of the matter is that in the past few years, because television has come in a big way in this country, you have 300 channels beaming 24 hours all the time, news channels, entertainment channels, and newspapers have to compete with television channels. And I want to tell you one thing, that earlier I used to read 10 newspapers in the morning, and whatever news was printed in the morning's newspaper, I would draw something on it. But today, because of TV, news is changing every minute. So I have to compete with news also. If I do something on what has appeared in this morning's newspaper, what I draw, it is already 24-hour old. So my cartoon which appears tomorrow morning, it will be 48 hours old. So I have to sometimes, many times in fact, most of the times, look at television and do something on which has just happened. So this is the competition.
So this media now, we talk about proliferation of media, print, electronic, even waves, all sorts of media. What role you think the media has got as a journalist? I mean, you are also part of a media.
True.
Because what you appear through a medium of media again. So do you think the media can play a very constructive, productive role in terms of bringing about this change, which politicians have tried to do and failed to do? Can the media also complement, media can supplement, media can help, and together with politicians who are your target audience, the target of making the cartoon, can together they bring about a change?
Absolutely. Media, in fact, had there not been media, there would be no democracy in any country. And in fact, that is why many governments try to muzzle the media most of the time, because that's the only voice of dissent. You can buy up everything in the system, but if you can't buy the media, then what is the point of ruling the country? So that's why many governments want, try to, have press censorship or muzzle them, have some rules through the back door. But I think that media has played a very positive role in this country in the last 60 years. And if democracy has survived in this country, I think a lot of credit must go to the media.
So this is, but how do you think we can join hands and can work together? Which are those, what could be the starting point of doing that?
The first thing is that, you were saying something.
No, I was just saying, because we always looked at the
adversaries.
So can it not be possible? And people probably may be thinking now that, why not you join hands? You try to find out.
We are adversaries in a sense,
but
we are partners
fundamentally.
Also. We are not only adversaries, but we are partners also. Like media and the establishment are same time adversaries and partners. And I think the only thing that media can do is that, apart from being a watchdog, one can be, in fact, play in a positive role also.
Yeah.
In many ways. Like a lot of development takes place in the country, and it is not highlighted.
No, okay, that's one part we talk. But I'm just saying also there's a possibility that even politicians, the governments,
True.
the people in the establishment,
True.
they also need guidance.
True.
So if media has ability to actually go and find out from the grassroots, which sometimes probably the politician is not able to do because of whatever is the reason, can we not bring a role of a media which can guide the establishment?
Definitely it can.
You know, here you are doing that by drawing a cartoon. You are saying that this is what you have done wrong. But can we also not convey a message, not just through cartoon, but media as a whole? I'm saying, in terms of saying this is wrong, but this is right. So if you can actually put across,
of course, why not? We can be partners in this, definitely. But the thing is that many times it happens that media gives you a guideline, and politicians never follow it. That is what happens. Many times media tells you in advance, warns you about a lot of things. But what happens is that, as they call chikna ghada, it never happens that politicians never listen to it. So I think we can definitely play that role. But ultimately, I can only talk about me as a cartoonist.
Yeah.
I would say that role of a cartoonist in a democracy is a very important one. And I would say that if in a country, if you want to see that whether democracy will survive in this country or not, you can see how fierce their cartoonists are and how much freedom their cartoonists get. And by that you can see in any country, because you won't see any cartoonist in a dictatorship.
That's it. Because
and unfortunately in this country also, cartooning in the past few years is not being given the kind of importance that it used to get earlier.
So
it has, from the front page, it has gone inside in most of the newspapers.
So if you see there's a decline of the declining democratic value in India?
I think definitely if the role of a cartoonist diminishes in newspapers, then definitely it is a warning signal for democracy.
But what I've seen, for example, your cartoons now, they have of course gone inside, but they've gone into the edit page.
Yeah, it's a very important
of course, and you have gone on a much bigger space than what you used to receive.
No,
on
I'm
the
not
front
talking
page.
about a particular newspaper.
No, I'm just saying, but many times I've seen that many cartoons, like even in Hindu, I see the cartoon
on the edit page,
which is on the edit page, which is as
very
big a
important
space as probably an editor will get.
Yeah.
So that shows importance rather than decline.
No, I'm saying that on the whole, in generally, some of the biggest newspapers don't have a cartoonist now in this country. And the front page has gone completely to the film stars and cricket stars and, crime stories are on the front page. And in fact, in the last few years, more importance is given to, you have many graphic artists, you have many designers, you have many illustrators. What I want to convey is that media has stopped questioning the establishment. So having a cartoonist is a kind of an inconvenient thing for a media house to...
Inconvenient truth. This is an inconvenient truth.
Yes, because a cartoonist is never going to toe the establishment line. Cartoonist survives on adversity and on the basis of protest of his cartoons. So a cartoonist can never support somebody in the ministries or in the government. He has to find faults in things which are happening and bring it out to the people through his cartoons.
So declining role of a cartoonist
is
an indicator of the less importance we give to the common man's voice.
Absolutely.
And that's something which is a very worrying thing.
Absolutely.
That probably is now getting manifested in terms of more Naxalite activity, more protests taking place. Because people are not finding their space, which is required in public domain for people to understand why they are protesting, what is happening. So I think this is something which is something which you're taking note of. What are you busy these days? What are you planning now? I mean, you draw a cartoon every day, but what are your plans for future?
In fact, I sometimes, feel bored with my cartoons. Because every morning when I go to my studio and start working on the cartoon, I curse my fate that why I became a cartoonist, because every day I have to produce some cartoon and it should be of high quality. But by the evening when I have finished my cartoon, I feel elated. I feel very happy that I have created something new. And I'm blessed because I'm into such a profession.
How much time it takes for you from thinking process to drawing a final cartoon?
It takes me roughly 10 hours.
10 hours?
Yeah. Because I read all the newspapers, I keep watching TV, I read different things because I have to comment on anything in the world.
Do you reject something which you draw and then try again?
True, absolutely. Like I don't always draw the first idea that comes to my mind. That's why it takes so much of time. And newspaper deadlines are very, very tough. So by the evening I finish my cartoon, I feel very happy. And I sometimes feel very bored with working on paper all the time and drawing cartoons for newspapers. So I want also some relief. Just like holidaying, I also do something else. For example, I did a mural in DT Cinemas in Gurgaon, in Mega Mall.
Oh.
So this is a 16 feet by 20 feet mural on the wall, which I created on 4 feet by 4 feet wood pieces,
Oh.
and then stuck them together in the mall's common reception hall. It's a huge wall given to me, and these are caricatures in color of Hollywood and Bollywood stars. So that was a new thing I did. So I really enjoyed
You
it
didn't
immensely.
do it before.
I did it
For
in
the first
2000.
time.
Yeah, I never did it before. It was the first time I did it. I don't know whether other cartoonists have done it, but it was a huge thing, and Amitabh Bachchan was 16 feet tall, so it was in the Limca Book of Records also.
Oh.
Other thing is that I keep having my exhibitions of cartoons. I plan to have one. I've just finished a book of cartoons on the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh.
Oh.
Its title is No Prime Minister.
Oh.
And it is 150 cartoons of Mr. Manmohan Singh in the last 4.5 years or 5 years. Plus, they have a few cartoons from his days as finance minister in Narasimha Rao government also. So this is one thing. And then I'm seriously doing some animation work nowadays, which you would see very soon, I think. Within a few months, it should be on TV.
Oh. So you are busy and doing so many things.
Lots of things I'm doing all the
But
time.
unfortunately, politicians keep you more busy. So I wish
Because of them, I
politicians
survive.
will-
They are my
politicians will
bread and
relieve
butter.
you of that burden of carrying cartoons so that you could be involved in such a productive and constructive work.
I would
So
be nowhere if they were not there.
I know.
They are
But-
my bread and butter.
I know. But I wish you all the best, and we could continue talking longer, but time is running out. But thank you very much for joining in this program. Wish you all the best, and I hope that day will be there soon when we'll not be wearing black and we'll wear some more colorful colors, when politicians will also enjoy that color. And I look forward to that day sooner than later. So thank you very much for joining this program. This was Sudhir Tailang talking to us about the role of cartoonists in today's world and how Indian society is thriving on cartoons because they face that problem which cartoonists try to articulate for your concern, which brings to politicians like me. So thank you very much for joining this program. Waiting for you to join us in the next week's program, in which we'll be joined by another personality, if not a cartoonist, somebody else. Goodbye.